What is up, everybody? It is your boy Farai. Thank you once again for tuning in to another video, man. Shout out Notification Squad. Hope you're having a great day. Definitely make sure to smash that like button as we do another question and answer. As always, check the links in the description for awesome things related to FL Studio, vocal mixing, my vocal recording course, vocal mixing course, and vocal enhancer for FL Studio will definitely help you get your game up and establish yourself as an engineer. With that being said, let's get into another question and answer. Squad up. Tony asks, I'm getting so angry because my mixes never sound good and I don't know why. We've all been through this stage within our mixing careers. There's going to come a time where nothing is gelling. You've tried every EQ, you've tried every compressor, you've tried boosting, cutting, levels. You've just tried everything and nothing is working. What do? This is what I personally do. I just step away from the computer for a while, and when I come back to the computer, I turn off every plugin and then I reassess the situation. It could be many things, but it generally comes down to these things when you're mixing vocals to 2-track instrumentals or just mixing in general. But it really comes down to looking at your arrangement, right? So before you even consider plugins or mixing or levels or anything like that, consider the actual harmonic content. And if all your material without plugins sounds good melodically and harmonically, does everything gel together in a kind of symphonic way? Now, having your music gel symphonically will really deal with most of the mix. You could really pass a rough mix that sounds good sonically. I mean, if you listen to classical music has been recorded, so it really doesn't need to get mixed at all. Everything has to be pinpoint perfect. So treat your music the same as classical music in a way. Make sure that your vocals are gelling with the melody well. Make sure your drums are actually, fitting with the melodies. Make sure you're choosing the right pianos. Now, obviously, if you are recording to 2 tracks, make sure you're finding high quality beats. A big problem, I turn down a lot of mixes that just have poor quality beats. A lot of the time guys are, downloading the 128 kilobyte MP3 and it's just sounding super thrashed. There's no headroom, there's no dynamics, and then they've recorded on top of this crushed instrumental and they've boosted their mic into this beat to really make it sound usable, and it's just a mess by the time it comes to mixing. So, take initiative, find high quality beats, and then really focus some time on recording your vocals as best as possible. And I swear to you, your rough mixes are almost going to sound like finished mixes. That's what I've been taught. That's how we were taught to record. I highly recommend hanging out with some rock engineers or something. Find an internship at a studio and see how they record. The pros are always going to be making sure that the songs are sounding as best as possible before adding any sort of plugins on the chain. As I always tell people, I'm only recording with a digital SSL EQ with a little bit of high pass filter with a analog compressor and then the beat, and that should generally give you about 70% of your mix. So if things are not sounding good, start again, or just take a break, turn off everything, start again, assess the situation. And sometimes it is better to just let go of a song and just realize that maybe it was just not the correct blend of ingredients. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're gonna make pasta and you might not use the right sauce. You know what I mean? Are you gonna eat like a burnt pie? You know what I mean? There's so many different ways to approach it, but the best way, high quality ingredients, make sure everything gels together before mixing, and I swear to you, your mixes are going to sound a lot better. So it is difficult to answer, but that's the best way to do it. So hopefully that answers your question. Calio575 asks, what processing can I do on a dense 2-track to make room for vocals? That is an awesome question, especially if you are mixing rap or pop. There was actually a trick I learned a long time ago from a guy named Bradley. Shout out to you, Bradley, wherever you are. Hope you are doing well. But really what he showed me was, I was mixing a voiceover one day at the studio, and the client had chosen this really densely packed piece of bed music. In advertising we call it bed music, is when the music sits under the beat or under the vocal, and I just couldn't get it to sound good, man. It was just poking out. You couldn't really hear the voice, and the client had wanted the beat at a certain level. So he showed me that really all you need to do is pull up an EQ, and you really want to just dip away between, let's just say, 800 up to around 3000 to 5000 hertz, and really you can just carve away a little bit of that, and that'll just really make space for your voice to pop through. It's as simple as that. Back then there weren't too many dynamic EQs, or they were, but no one was really using them that much. This must have been around 2013, 2012. How fast time flies. But you know, that was all it really did. And what you can do obviously now, since there are so many dynamic EQs out there, pull up the fab filter, pull up some of the waves. I think the F6 or whatever is a dynamic EQ. All you need to do is set a nice threshold and then just allow, you know, the track to be kind of ducked a little bit. You can also use a sidechain filter to have the voice actually compress the track. That'll work easily in Pro Tools. Go and check out my video on how to sidechain vocals to a beat in FL Studio. This is a really old video I did a long time ago, and it is a method that works. So those are two methods that I can think of that'll definitely help you out, so keep on mixing. Jake asks, parallel saturation tips for vocals. Aha, lots of fun doing parallel saturation. Actually, interesting enough, I was watching Mixing with the Masters last week, and I saw Chris Lord Algie really do a simple trick to gain more out of his vocals. And what he did was he actually just duplicated the main vocal track onto a second channel on his console. And obviously, because each channel on a console is different, you're going to get a little bit of a different flavor added to your vocal, but you're also going to get that loudness added to the vocal sound. So obviously in the box, you could then duplicate your main vocal and then add a waves NLS, add a Air Windows plugin, any sort of saturation plugin that is going to emulate a console line amp or something like that, and just blend that in with your main vocal. Try that out. Obviously, I'm personally going to be using an 1176 if I'm doing parallel compression, so that I can get that extra bit of kind of juice out of that, you know what I mean, circuit design. Pull tech is also going to work well, you know, 1176 into a pull tech. You can also try, you know, decapitator, anything saturation just as a duplicate is going to work really nice. Another trick which I can give you is to add your saturation plugin and then add maybe like a waves doubler and then have that pull up about 3-4% of wideness, you know what I mean, or like a flange at like 3-4%, and that's just going to wrap around the main vocal to give you that really nice kind of perceived depth. But yeah, man, lots of things to try out. Definitely try short reverb times with saturation. It's going to give you that nice kind of wrap around the vocal sound with the added saturation, so check that out. Kid Cortez asks, when I route my recording channel to another with Autotune, the voice has a doubled effect. Okay, so I'm assuming this is for all of the template users out there. Obviously, when you are using one of my templates, you have your mic input channel running into only one of the green channels at once. You do not ever want your mic input channel running into two different channels. Hopefully that is what you're requesting or what you're asking. Other than that, maybe just try turn off plugins. Obviously, without the session in front of me, I can't really tell what it is, but I'm assuming it is double routing. Just make sure that at all times, mic input is only going into one voice channel at a time. So mic input channel into one green channel. Hopefully that helps. KidSaint.dll. Haha, it's a cool plugin. Is your mixing process the same when mixing a feature, two artists on one song? Good question. So if I have a track that has two different artists, and I'm using one of my templates, what I'm essentially going to do is duplicate the main vocal channel so that each artist can get a separate main vocal. Generally, I will mix the doubles all the same in the same tracks, just so we get that consistency up front. Obviously, they might have different layers, so we'll have to deal with that as it comes. But generally, all doubles are going to go into the same tracks. But when it comes to main vocals, I want two different main vocal channels, both running into the same vocal chain, and I'll explain why. So having two different main vocal channels allows me to add different types of auto-tune to each artist so that I can tailor that, as well as just treat each artist's EQ differently, right? Because obviously each voice is different, so we're going to be doing slightly different EQ. I don't want to kind of use an all-for-one approach, because that could only make one artist sound good, for example. So you really want to deal with those two things differently, but then run them both into one vocal chain where you can then do the bulk of the processing to have that consistent overall sound. I feel that in modern pop or rap music, you definitely want the two vocalists to sound pretty much identical in tone. So, you know, obviously you're going to compress them the same, you're going to be adding the same types of saturation plugins. You want that whole vocal chain to be running into effect sends pretty much at the same level, but you obviously want to treat each artist's voice differently. So having two main vocal channels allows you to treat those things as separate entities before reaching that main vocal channel where they both come together and you can kind of do the rest of the mixing. So hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, as I said, pop rap music, you do want to get your vocals as consistent as possible, so keep on mixing. Andrew Moyo asks, analog or hybrid or digital? That is a good question. Yeah, that's something I think about a lot. Obviously, I have got quite a bit of analog gear in the past few weeks, and you know, it really comes down to what your needs are. So for me personally, I love having extra flavors of compressors to record through, maybe to mix through, and having some hardware effects just to get that extra depth out of my mixes. So that works for me personally. It really comes down to what type of mixer you are. Are you a recording engineer? Do you need lots of different preamps? Do you need lots of different compressors to record through? Do you need mastering converters because you are a mastering engineer, etc., etc.? There are different needs for different types of work. Basically, personally, I recommend for everyone out there, if you are a recording artist, I would recommend focusing on A, your room, B, your microphone, C, a good microphone preamplifier, and then if you can afford it, get yourself a nice hardware compressor. That is pretty much what the bulk of professional artists are using in today's world. Even, you know, now that it's been locked down, you definitely hearing different artists' camps producing different levels of quality of music, and you can really see who is using the good stuff and who isn't. So for example, you know, certain artists are going to have a home setup with a really nice preamplifier, a really nice mic preamp, and then a really nice mic, I guess, and then recording in a nice room, and that's going to give you the best results. That way you can record into Pro Tools, capture it in nice high quality, bit depth, and then send that off to somebody who will then do the rest of the mixing. But personally, mixing, you know, in the box and then going hybrid these days, it can help, especially, you know, for example, if I have a track that really needs a bit more analog warmth, I'm going to be mixing through the EQs, you know what I mean? I'm really having a lot of fun. But personally, I do believe that digital has its benefits over analog in regards to just speed. So for example, if I don't have much time, I will just mix in the box, so I don't have to recall or anything like that. But if I do have a bit of time and the track really could use that extra bit of space and depth, I'm going to mix analog, and it's going to be a lot of fun mixing that track. But it really comes down to what your needs are, as I said. You know, if you can afford it, definitely, you know, purchase 1 or 2 pieces of analog gear. Also, as I forgot, definitely get yourself a nice audio interface, because if you are going to be going out of the box and into the box again, then you want to make sure that your conversion is clean enough to not destroy the quality of your mix. So lots of things to consider. Pretty high investment cost. As I said, invest in mic pre, and then maybe compressor, and you're going to be getting the best sound possible. So hopefully that answers your question. Keep mixing. With the recipe asks, do they change keys every time when running Autotune live? Yes, actually a really good example to make for you is I worked on Strictly Come Dancing in like 2014, and pretty much every song that was performed live had a different mix going. Now, why would that be? Well, simply because you can't have a one sound fits all approach when recording live. So that answers your question in regards to changing keys of Autotune, right? Let's just say song 1 had a key of A minor, song 3 might have a key of D major, for example. So yes, you will have different settings for different songs. Generally, live sound, you know, for example, if let's just say Travis Scott is live, he will generally have somebody running his set list, and the set list is generally going to be within a DAW, and then each track is going to have a different plugin chain. Now that plugin chain could make use of automation to manually change the key or automatically change the key, or they could literally have a whole different vocal chain for each song so that they can utilize different effects. There's a whole world out there in regards to live sound. I highly recommend you guys and girls to go watch some live sound videos and watch some people's live sound rigs. If you want to get the real traditional approach to it, go and check out Dave Rat. And then I think Waves Audio a while back did quite a few videos interviewing some live sound engineers in regards to how they switch up their workflow to cater to each song while the performance is happening. Obviously, you would not want to have you know, one Autotune, for example, in A minor on every song, because it'll just sound really bad. And there have been artists that have done this before, and it doesn't sound very good. So yeah, definitely if you had Rolling Loud or whatever, a professional artist is probably going to come with his own engineer or tech that is going to plug in and then have that set play from that laptop. And generally that laptop is going to have each song have different settings on it, running on a Pro Tools session or something like that. So hopefully that answers your question. It's just a whole different world. I can't really answer that in one question, but that should be enough to get you started. So keep mixing, keep researching, swag up. Danshi asks, how to mix and master vocals that were recorded with a lot of reverb and big frequency boosts on them. I would say don't, personally. I'm a big fan of getting it right from the beginning, meaning really spending some time recording a few rough takes, then listening back on your speakers or on your headphones and kind of adjusting your mic to taste so that you are getting the best rough mix possible, so that when it comes time to mix, you are not having to deal with problems like this. But let's just say you feel that you have a hit song that was recorded poorly, but the song is really amazing. I do actually have a video that is called, I think, how to make cheap vocals sound expensive, something like that. I'll leave it in the description, but it's really just going to show you how to add a bit of digital saturation to clean up your vocal, as well as how to dip away certain frequencies. But as you know, the more you have to kind of take away from the vocal, the more digital and not fragile, but more thin and tinny the vocal is going to start to sound. That's why it's almost a shot in the foot to have to do that. Obviously, some guys are mixing tracks like this every week and they're getting good results. So try out the plugin chain I recommended in the video. But as I said, you know, even if you have to get a blanket to put around your microphone, do that. I would do that way before having to mix badly recorded vocals. So that's just the truth. You know, have some fun. You'll see how much you'll gain by recording better. Like, just try it out. So keep mixing. Slip.0 asks, do you stack compressors on vocals? If yes, why? Yeah, I definitely do stack the compressors. Obviously, when stacking compressors, you need to know exactly why you are adding said compressor into the chain. For example, if I am recording through an 1176, I will then maybe not use another 1176 during mixing, because obviously I have used that flavor already. So, for example, in my general recording chain, I will record with the URI LA4, which is a nice LA2A style compressor, and then I will mix in the box using a R compressor just to do a bit of digital compression. So for example, let's just say you've recorded your track. What you could then do in the box is use an 1176 style compressor to get that flavor, or use an LA2A to get that flavor, because those are very flavorful sounding compressors, and then make use of a digital compressor just to do the kind of gluing of your vocal if you feel certain parts are popping out, or maybe it's not consistent enough. So each compressor is going to have a different thing that it can add or do to your vocal. Generally, I'm using digital compressors to do the real kind of gluing of the vocal, and then I'm using analog compressors to add vibe. So if you look in the chain, I think I have 3 compressors or 4, whatever. I've got a DBX165A, which I'm recording through right now. And the reason I'm using that today is because it has a really transparent sound. It's super fast, so it's just going to do compression without any color. But if I do want a nice colorful compressor while recording, I'm going to use one of the URI compressors. So, you know, definitely watch some studio tour videos so you can learn about all the different types of compressors out there, FET type, VCA type compressors, tube type compressors, etc., and learn about all the different flavors out there. And you can start utilizing them and using them as almost colors to add to your mix and to your voice. So hopefully that answers your question. Keep researching, keep recording. Produced by, I wouldn't know how to pronounce this, Legsy. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Do you recommend building your own analog gear? So I'm going to assume 2 things. Either you're talking about DIY building of analog gear, and then I'll also talk about just building up your own list of analog gear. But DIY building is awesome. I highly recommend everyone out there to if people ask me, should I study sound engineering? And I say, no, rather study something like electrical engineering, because that way you can build your own DIY recording equipment. I know lots of audio engineers that started off as electrical engineers, and they pretty much are their own studio technician. Now, I can do basic studio maintenance, soldering, etc. So I've always been able to kind of get by. But, you know, the guys out there doing insane things. If you are looking for some DIY kits, I recommend looking into companies like Hairball Audio. You can make your own 1176 for under $1,000, and for a really high quality one. There are companies out there like Cappy Audio, which make a lot of API style 500 series modules. There's some cool SSL DIY kits out there. There's lots of cool stuff that you can do to really you know what I mean, get that high quality sound. Lots of cool Neumann U87 DIY kits for under $500, and they sound pretty similar to the original. So, you know, there's lots of cool stuff out there. In regards to building a collection, as I said earlier in the video, or after, I don't know, definitely only purchase and build up stuff that you actually need. So if you are recording, invest in a good microphone, good mic pre, and a good compressor, and then a good analog to digital converter. But You know, I don't know exactly what the question was, but hopefully I answered it. Alrighty, so those are all of the questions for today's question and answer. Hopefully you learned something in this video. As always, make sure to smash that like button. And if you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description to my Selfie web store. Pick up some cool stuff, vocal effects, templates, my vocal recording course, vocal mixing course, and vocal enhancer for FL Studio. And as always, have a good one. Keep mixing, keep recording, and stay well. I'll check out next time. Peace out.